Let me read to you a passage from the 7th chapter of St. Mark's Gospel, verses 24 to 30. It's the Gospel for Thursday of the 5th week of Ordinary Time. St. Matthew writes, Jesus left that place and went to the vicinity of Tyre. He entered a house and did not want anyone to know it. Yet he could not keep his presence secret. In fact, as soon as she heard about him, a woman whose little daughter was possessed by an evil spirit came and fell at his feet. The woman was a Greek born in Syro-Phoenicia. She begged Jesus to drive the demon out of her daughter. First let the children eat all they want, he told her, for it is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to their dogs. Yes, Lord, she replied, but even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs. Then he told her, for such a reply you may go. The demon has left your daughter. She went home and found her child lying on the bed and the demon gone. That's from Mark chapter 7 verses 24 to 30. What does it suggest to us? Well, if there is one thing which is plain from our gospel passage I've just read, it is that our Lord was known as a great and effortless worker of extraordinary miracles. He could scarcely escape his fame, for this feature of his ministry was so evident. He worked constantly to prevent his being seen primarily, let alone simply, as a miracle worker. In our scene that I read earlier, our Lord is escaping from the hubbub of his intense work, and he disappears into the region of Tyre, some manuscripts add, and Sidon, with his disciples. Mark tells us that he entered a house to remain even more hidden, but it was impossible. Somehow word got around, and out came the Syro-Phoenician woman. She wanted one thing from Jesus. It was a miracle. She knew she could get it from him because he was a good and holy man, and so would be good to her, and he was powerful before God. He could get anything for her from God, and she wanted her daughter delivered from the demon. It was yet another instance of the fame of Jesus for his miracles and his power over the underworld. So striking was this power that over the demonic, that at one point his enemies among the religious aristocracy accused him of being in league with Satan. It was precisely this power of working miracles which was being heard of beyond the borders of Galilee and Judea, and our Gentile woman as an instance of how this fame of Jesus of Nazareth was spreading. Had his public career not been so short, my own guess is that word of it would have spread well beyond. The point here, though, is that Christ displayed effortless and enormous power over nature and the demonic. It was a striking sign that he was sent by God. As Nicodemus, a Pharisee and one of the leaders of the Jews, readily admitted, addressing our Lord as Rabbi, we know that you are a teacher who comes from God, for no one could do these signs that you do unless God is with him. John chapter 3 verse 2. Despite this, many of the best educated in the scriptures refused to recognize that he came from God, despite these signs. There were others who saw the signs and did not get beyond them to real faith in him. For instance, even many of his disciples, despite the signs, left him when he taught what was beyond natural reason, the Holy Eucharist. It was too much for them. John chapter 6 verse 60. The miracles had real importance. Our Lord appealed to them in the presence of his enemies. If I am not doing the works of my Father, he said, then do not believe me. But if I do them, even though you do not believe me, believe the works, that you may know and understand that the Father is in me and I am in the Father. Again they tried to arrest him, we read. John chapter 10 verse 37 to 38. That was with his enemies. He said the same thing to the 12. At the Last Supper, our Lord, in response to Philip's request that he show them the Father, said that the Father who dwells in me does his works. Believe me that I am in the Father and the Father is in me. or else believe me for the sake of the works themselves. Truly, truly, I say to you, he who believes in me will also do the works that I do, and greater works than these will he do, because I go to the Father. John chapter 14, verse 10 to 12. There is no one in the annals of history who displayed such a powerful miracles as did Jesus Christ. And those who have worked miracles in his name did so precisely in his name. He was the worker of the miracles when invoked by them. They showed that God was with and in him. Indeed, as it turned out, that he himself was God the Creator become man. Setting aside the further and indeed more important matters of the supernatural character of his teaching and the surpassing holiness of his life, who can match this? What has Confucius to show, or Buddha, or Zoroaster, or Muhammad, in terms of miracles that manifest the presence of the Creator in all that is done and claimed? Can our Muslim brothers and sisters point to an instance of Muhammad raising someone from the dead, or calming a tempest in the midst of a vast inland lake at a word? Did he expel demons? Did he grant sight to a person born blind? Christ forgave sins and then, instantly, to prove his authority to do this, effected a remarkable cure of a paralytic. Above all, what can possibly equal Christ's prediction of his death, his prediction of the circumstances of it, and his rising from the dead by his own power and on the predicted day, the third day? There is nothing like this anywhere. And even the prophet, designated by Christ as the greatest, John the Baptist, had nothing of these signs to his credit. St. Jerome wrote that ignorance of the Scriptures is ignorance of Christ. What he was saying is that the contemplation of the contents of the Scriptures, especially the Gospels, gives us a true realization of the person of Jesus Christ. Let us contemplate all aspects of what the Gospels present of him, including his miracles, of which we have an instance in the Gospel I read earlier from Mark chapter 7, verse 24 to 30. Let us contemplate him, and contemplating him, come to know and love him, not merely the Jesus of history, but the living Jesus now, who is head of his body, the church.